mean, what did you see there? I mean, was there a lot of pain? Was there sadness? Was there, it seemed to really hit you, right? Even in that moment of drunkenness, per se.
Yeah, I think what I saw was a mix of like disappointed, like I had failed, us, which was really heavy. One of the things that has come out of this whole process is in that moment when she looked at me, she was done. That was her final moment, right? And then I wake up the next day and say I'm going to rehab, and she has to take all of those emotions and she shelved them, so she could be there to support me. And I wasn't aware of that in that moment. I just selfishly thought, cool, I'm getting the support I need. I'm going to rehab. This is awesome, But it wasn't until a while later that she let me know, like, she was done and her emotions were put on the shelf, and she never got to process any of those because she had to switch straight to supporting me in my decision, which is awesome for me, but that sounds selfish, right? Thanks for supporting me. But it was an important thing for me to hear, as heavy as it was too, because we got to revisit that, and I needed to understand that. My early recovery was really rocky. I may have stopped drinking, but I was using a lot of my same anger and manipulation tactics and blame. I was trying to navigate through it, and I wasn't doing well at all. So our relationship definitely took a strain early on. When I got back from rehab, it was really tough.
Yeah. So are you guys still together?
We are. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we're better than ever. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because the way you were mentioning it there, that she was done, I thought the next thing was that she was going to hang around for a bit and then break the news to you in rehab, Dave.
Yeah. Thankfully not. We actually revisit these conversations every once in a while just to see, and I was actually picking her brain the other day and asking her, like, if she thought, was the plan, like, get me back from rehab and then be like, okay, cool, you're good, like, I'm over it, and luckily for me, she wasn't ready to throw in the towel because she saw that I did make a big decision, and so she wanted to see how it all played out. Okay? I think, like I said, we had a lot of strain. We reached that moment again after rehab where it was like, what are we going to do? This is bad. We decided to go to counseling together, and that was huge. That helped us a lot. After I hit my first year of sobriety, a lot in me started to change too. Getting to that year was really difficult. Like I said, I just kept falling into the same patterns even though I wasn't drinking. I still really had a lot of anger, and I had to figure out all of that. I thought it took a long time for me to realize that this is my recovery, and I was trying to want, especially her, to do my recovery for me or with me, you know what I mean? And that's not her responsibility, but it took me a long time to realize that. It's not easy to admit that all of this weight is on your shoulders to fix yourself. You know what I mean? That it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Key word there, work, right? And it's also that interesting thing, and you might be able to relate to this or maybe not. But I think when we're struggling with that daily drinking and we're struggling with the battle of addiction and everything like that, it makes a lot of sense to us, I think, that if we remove the substance, hey, things are going to be gravy. We're going to be on the up and up. And what happened for me, and I think what happens for a lot of us, is that, okay, now we've just removed something that, at one point in time, I hate to admit it, but it worked really well. The alcohol, the drugs, it worked really well to keep things going. And then at some point it switches and it stops working and it starts causing more chaos and more pain and more hurt than maybe it's able to even provide the relief from. But it's that part that we get rid of the substance. It's so raw, it's so real. It's like now the emotions, and there's nowhere to run necessarily from all this stuff, right? And you've got to face it head on. So you're getting to rehab like in the next day. I'm curious, right? Were you familiar with rehab? Did you look at this before? Because it seems like it was pretty quick, or did you just reach out to the right person that they were able to set you up to make this happen?
Well, luckily my insurance through work is amazing. They have an employee assistance program that really just took care of everything for me. But as I mentioned, I reached out to like my dad, my ex-wife's fiance, my nephew, people that I had known have gone through this process, because I wanted to know what I was walking into, and collectively they all said the same thing. You've made the decision for yourself. Now what are you going to do about it? What work are you going to put into it? So I made the decision on the way there, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to go all in. I'm not going to shy away from it. And I showed up that night, got checked in. They put me in detox. And when I woke up the next day, I walked into the group that they were having, and the counselor looked at me and he was like, well, you're in detox. You don't have to be in the group. And I told him, I said, no, I told myself that I'm going to go all in on this thing and I'm going to start today, and I sat down in the first group right then and there and just dove in and was super open in that moment, super vulnerable, told my story, and just kept opening up and listening. I mean, I was taking notes after notes. It's funny when you're taking those notes in that moment, I'm like, cool, I'm writing the manuscript that's going to help me when I get back home. Well, when you get back home, those notes don't really do everything that you want them to do in real life moments, but I really poured into it, which I think was important to do.
Yeah, well, for sure, 110%. Because oftentimes, a lot of times, and you might have even seen it this program, I don't know, people will get to rehab and then a couple of days in talk themselves out of even needing to be there, even towards that. So you get in there, and I mean, you jump right in. And we hear this story a lot too, right? Because you went all in with the drinking, you went all in with that stuff, and a lot of us are all or nothing people. And you do this thing, and I mean, sometimes those are the best things, right? If we sit back, we think about it all, and we just let time pass, I think it's a good thing, man, to really get in there, make this decision and for it to happen fast, right? Because you can lose those windows. For people who want to get sober, it's really important that, they move quick, or the support or whoever is helping them. When they say, hey, I'm ready to do it, it's got to be quick, because you hang up for a couple days and our mind might change. And I'm sure probably throughout your story, you have those days where you're like, I'm not drinking today, and then, things start get going and the wheels get turning, and it's like that, that can go out the window really quick. So you leave rehab and you come back to, to the real world type thing, right? Rehab's incredible, by the way, for anybody who is interested in checking it out. It's a good place to remove you from a lot of the stress and the day-to-day grind of life and put you in a safe place with people with a ton of experience and other people that are going through all of this. What a lot of people realize on the other end of 30 days, it seems like a long time at the beginning, right? 30 days, my goodness, but it flies by, and it's really not that long. And you come out the other end, and, your life's waiting for you, for most of us, right? I remember getting out of rehab, and I went to South Florida. This was my second or third time in rehab, and I was like, this is going to be great. At the time, I was in a really bad spot, and I was living on my brother's floor in his apartment, and I didn't have any belongings or, anything, no job, nothing. And I felt really good walking out of rehab, Here's my shot, man, to really do something with my life. And then I just remember, opening up the door, and the loneliness kicks back in, the sadness kicks back in, and I was, right back to where I was before, sober. And then now, all the other pieces of the puzzle start coming. What was that experience like for you, after your 30 days?
Yeah, that was, coming back home, I'm like, oh, cool, I get to go back home. I did this 30 days. I have my notebook. I feel great about it. I really did a lot of learning. And you come back and you realize you're the one that changed, right? Like, you're the one that started to change, and everything else around you stayed the same, So it's like a huge reality check. Okay, wait, like, now I'm actually around real-time emotions that are popping up. Like, the kids are acting crazy, and now I'm getting sort of stressed out about it, and this is where I would normally turn to a drink because I've had a stressful day, you know what I mean? So you're trying to navigate all that and figure it all out in real time, and it's happening really fast, I had to learn to vocalize when I was having a craving. When I had them, I had to say it out loud. I had to really rely on my honesty with myself to try to get through those moments. I'd be at work and I'd pull somebody aside and be like, hey, I'm having a craving to have a drink tonight. I don't think I'm going to do it, but I'm just letting you know. I had to be really, really vocal about it, which, was good that I was vocal and upfront about me going to rehab in the first place, because it made it easier. I didn't have to start this awkward conversation with somebody they already knew. In the same breath, I feel like I had eyes on me all the time too. Is this guy going to snap today? Is he going to break today? Which also brought on another set of pressure, right? But it it happens really fast. So I had to find a way to try to slow things down. And for that, I just started waking up really early in the morning and being able to have time to myself. Wake up before anybody gets up, and I just get to have that moment of quiet to myself, you know. Also, early on, I was going to AA meetings because when I was in rehab, we were going to meetings 5 days a week, and I didn't really know that there was any other way to recover. So I was going to AA meetings pretty consistently for the first 3 months, like every day. But it just really wasn't for me. It wasn't sinking in for me. I liked going and being in a room with people that could understand what I was going through, right? Like that part was cool. Or hearing stories from people, which was cool. But I knew I had to find something else because it wasn't resonating with me. I started going back to counseling, and that really started to help. And I started getting on various different sober apps and, you know, saying my story and stuff. And from there, I started sharing on Instagram, and then it was like a snowball, you know, like I shared my story once, and then I'm hearing from people that are like, hey, that story sits with me, or yeah, I recover the same way. And then I started to realize, wait a minute, there's like a whole group of people out here that have their own way of recovery. They have their own process on how that they're doing this thing. And it was really eye-opening to me. You know, I was like, wow, I don't have to do this in the cookie cutter version. I can make this Dave's recovery and really do it how I want to do it, you know. Because at the end of the day, there's one rule, and that's don't use or don't drink, right? And how I'm doing that is up to me.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yeah, to offer some flexibility in what you can connect with, right? Because that's the thing, is we got to stick around, and we got to find some other people that we can connect with and, you know, be part of something a little bit bigger than us, right? Sounds like you found exactly that. Yeah, I'm thinking about this. A lot of people come up with this, and maybe you have something similar, right? It's, hey, you know, my life is, you know, I'm in a rough spot. I need help. I need some help with how to get sober. And then you could mention, hey, why don't, you know, maybe look at options for rehab. No, I can't go to rehab. I've got my job, and I don't want anybody to know that I've got this problem, and I've got kids. And, you know, I get it. There's people have a lot of stuff going on. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, right? Because my thoughts, just to fast forward a little bit, is, you know, if you go to rehab for 30 days, yeah, of course you got all that stuff, but I'm really curious to see how your employer handled it, and I'm really curious to see if you had those thoughts and how you worked through it, because I know there are situations, obviously, Dave, out there where people cannot just up and leave for 30 days. I get that. There's probably those situations, but I think as well, there's probably people out there who just make that excuse, you know, just to be a straight shooter with it, make that excuse about what you can't do. We don't want to let the cat out of the bag type thing. And I'm really enjoying the aspect of your story about you getting honest with people and getting honest with yourself about, hey, where this thing has taken me in the journey that I'm on now. What are your thoughts on that, though, about all the excuses about not getting help?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is I don't think that society as a whole makes it easy for somebody to say or do, right? So much shame comes with it. I mean, even the label alcoholic, right? You hear the word alcoholic and you start to think about things you've seen in a movie, or you think of the homeless person laying on a railroad track with a brown bag in their hand, right? I think society's role in that has made it really difficult for people to be open and honest about it. You know, I can understand not wanting to go to rehab. That's a huge step and seems like something that's so daunting. But in the grand scheme of things, what's 30 days if it can change the rest of your life, right? That's just 30 days, and it's changed so much in my life. I've never felt better. It's the best decision I've ever made, you know? You got to be able to get beyond that fear. And once you can get past that initial fear, you can find the beauty that's beyond that, you know? Did that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. I think for a lot of times, and I'm only guessing here, but I think for a lot of times there's a lot more behind. I think there's that surface level stuff. Well, I can't. But there's all, then behind that, another layer to that is fear. Fear is holding us back of the unknown, right? What to expect. What is it going to be like? Hey, I'm going to, you know, have to hopefully move on from this substance that's been a part of my life for X amount of years, and it's very scary, the unknown. I even look back at my journey, and as destructive as it was really comfortable. I knew what to expect day in and day out, like for the most part. I mean, there were wrenches thrown in the tire every now and then where I was like, oh, okay, well, that wasn't really part of the plan, but I think that I got comfortable with sort of living in the sadness and living in blaming everybody else and living in, the pity parties and just being like, poor me, I'll never figure it out, and, help me, and not really accepting help. I just found comfort in that, and it was a very scary place to be because I wasn't striving for anything different for a long time. But I think, what you said there is so powerful. For you, it was the best decision you made, and at the end of the day, I mean, 30 days just really isn't much, especially if it's going to provide you the freedom on the other side to really get things together. What was it like with your employer when you mentioned to them, right? Because that's another thing people are really worried about going into treatment,
Yeah, I'm super lucky that in all areas of my life, I had a ton of support. The second that I called my job, they were immediately like, yeah, do whatever you have to do. My job was going to be there when I got back. The store I work at as a whole has all supported every bit of my journey. I'm super, super thankful for all the support that I've had. When you go into rehab in the beginning, I'm hearing stories from people that don't have the support or don't have the insurance and don't have the job backing them. And I almost felt guilty at times talking about that aspect of my story because I had so much support behind me. I understand not everybody has that, but there's other support out there too, right? Like I've also found support in strangers. You know what I mean? Like I follow you all the time and I find your messages supportive. You know what I mean? Like there's a ton of support out there, even if it's not the person right next to you. You just have to find a way to apply that to you, jobs. I mean, we could go on about jobs. That's probably a whole bigger topic. Like I think jobs should just provide that if somebody needs that assistance and is willing to go. I think, that society as a whole needs to make it easier for people to go to rehab and get help that they need. It's hard. Like here in Missouri, I don't even think there's more than 2 rehab facilities that people can go to. It's just not here, but there's bars everywhere, right?
Yeah, that's interesting how that plays out. Yeah. Well, Dave, incredible, man. So you got sober on August 12th, 2022.
Yeah.
It's really, I think, an important message to you share about that first year. The first year is a tough one to get through. But not that any of them are easier, but, I think 2 things are at play. The further we get a little bit stronger, more tools, and there is probably the element of things get more comfortable and we really grow into, just this sober lifestyle, and that's like the way that we live. But that first year is really tough. So well done on all of it. And I really appreciated you jumping in here and sharing. I'm just wondering, before we sign off, is there anything else you want to mention to, maybe bring us up to present day?
Yeah, the first thing I want to touch on is we were just talking about how people are saying that they can't and they can't. And if you're listening out there, I just want to sit here and tell you that you can. I know it seems like I'm just a guy spouting words, but I promise you, you can. That's the first message I want to say. The other thing is, today's life, today's Dave is living in a dream world. It is all of the things that I said that I wanted to be. I'm a better father. I'm a better partner. I'm a better employee at my job. I'm healthier. I'm fitter. All the things that I wanted to do are being executed today, and it's made me the happiest that I've ever been, and I'm able to allow myself to accept the happiness and know that I'm worth it. So it's been a ride, but it's been so worth it.
Yeah. What's one thing, too, I'm really curious, that you've learned about yourself throughout all of this?
That I'm limitless. There's no limit to what I can do if I apply myself. I'm stronger than I ever thought I was, and I don't mean that in strength. I mean that like in my mind. I've learned that I sold myself short for 20 plus years and didn't give myself enough credit. And now I know that anything that I want to set out to do, I can accomplish it.
Beautiful, man. A powerhouse, Dave. I love that. It's so interesting, right? Because sobriety seems to provide everything we were trying to find. in the bottle or in the addiction. It provides the true freedom of not having to wake up and our first thought being our next drink or our next drug or how we're going to make this happen. And it frees up a lot of time that we can put that effort into other things. And the confidence for people who get sober just seems to explode. It takes a little bit of time, but it really seems to explode.
Yeah, I feel like time is like flowed down so much. I've never had so much time on my hands. You know what I mean? Like now I know what it's like to have a day off when I have a day off. Like, wow, like I felt like I had hours of just not doing anything. It's crazy how fast things were moving when I was drinking. Super light speed.
Yeah. Does it ever surprise you that this is how you're living now?
Yeah. It's a good surprise. You know, sometimes I like to just look around or have a moment where I just watch my kids from afar and I'm just like, you know, it's like in a movie as like the camera's panning back or something like that. I'm just sitting there looking, wow, this thing is happening, you know, like it's happening right now. And it's happening because of me and the people around me that support me, obviously. But at the end of the day, you know, I did the work for this and I feel like I've earned it. And I try to absorb every ounce of it that I can.
Beautiful, man. Well, thank you again, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad.
Welcome back to Season 3 of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Join me, Brad, each week as my guests and I share incredible and powerful